A former bounty hunter sentenced today to 5 years in prison after pleading guilty to far fewer charges than he was originally charged with as part of a plea deal.
Denver 7 Investigates has been following Jesse Wagner's case as it's played out in court. Investigative reporter Natalie Chuck joins us in studio tonight with reaction from the courtroom now that sentencing is official. Natalie?
Yeah, Shannon and Jessica, and the deputy district attorney on this case called bounty hunting in Colorado, quote, the Wild West. This man, Jesse Wagner, will be serving a fraction of the time prosecutors originally intended, all because of the kind of victims they say he preys on.
Mr. Wagner looks forward to taking advantage of any opportunity to better himself while in the Department of Corrections.
That's the claim the defense attorney for Jesse Wagner is making on his behalf in court. But prosecutors paint a different picture of the defendant with a lengthy criminal past.
It's abundantly clear that he has presented a significant ongoing community safety risk. He's engaged in violent conduct or has been accused of that on multiple occasions. This stands as his 5th felony conviction.
Wagner is sentenced to 5 years in prison, despite originally facing nearly a dozen charges, including extortion, kidnapping, and unlawful sexual contact. Denver 7 Investigates first brought you this case back in August. We sat down with the victim, who recalled dark interactions with the bounty hunter hired to find her, who she says instead took her hostage for weeks.
Nobody will look your way or help you, and that was difficult. Very difficult.
Eventually, Wagner pleaded guilty to only 2 felonies: possession of a weapon by a previous offender and illegal use of a stun gun.
He believes himself to be above the law in a lot of respects.
These victims are often potentially reluctant to engage with the prosecution. They are sometimes a lot harder to get into contact with and to have consistent, ongoing communication with.
Deputy District Attorney Bryn Chase says this is her first time prosecuting a case against a bounty hunter, an industry not regulated by the state of Colorado.
We're operating in what I would equate to the Wild West when it comes to bounty hunters. Bounty hunters are able to potentially exploit very vulnerable persons by holding the idea of taking them back into custody over their heads. And when there's no proper regulation, obviously there's no oversight.
Is this justice in the eyes of the prosecutors?
That can often be one of the most difficult parts of being a prosecutor, is having to land on a resolution that doesn't embody what you thought the resolution ought to have embodied at the time that the case was filed.
Wagner has already been in jail for just under 2 years on this case, so he will serve a little more than 3 more years in prison starting now. The prosecutor told us it was paramount to them that Wagner be convicted of some sort of felony here that would keep him in custody, because right now, you guys, he is facing more felony charges out in California. That one also stemming from accusations against him while he was working as a bounty hunter out there. So clearly a pattern.
So what happens now since he has that pending case?
Yeah, good question. So we've reached out to the district attorney's office out in San Diego. They tell me that they are planning to extradite him back there to prosecute that case. And I've been speaking with the victim in that case for months. I know she is eager to see how this all plays out there in California. And coming up in the next half hour, I will break down the pattern of criminal bounty hunters that we continue uncovering. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.
All right, Natalie, thank you for your work on that. And Natalie and the Denver 7 Investigates team have been following this case very closely, uncovering this pattern of bounty hunters arrested on the job. You can find their reporting right now on denver7.com/investigates.